In today's show, Damian Lillard is out there recruiting. Can tweets, courtside seats help deliver the Portland Trailblazers a winner? Let's have some fun. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. Shows coming at you every single weekday, Monday through Friday, so make it your first listen. Start your days with it. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're going to wade a little bit into fantasy land. We're going to have a little fun on a Friday episode. You were listening to Friday, April 21st show, and you deserve it. Listen, it's been miserable in Portland. We've had a really wet April. The Portland Trailblazers haven't played a meaningful basketball game in 2 years. Let's just have a little fun. We're going to wade into fantasy land. We've been doing this week. Great week of shows, quite frankly. If you're tapping into the off-season content, we've been going through our player reviews, like reviewing player seasons. We've done it, Shaedon Sharpe, we've done Anthony Simons, we've done Yusuf Nurkic, Howard Beck joined the program earlier this week. We've had a fun sort of serious look at the off-season. Really, I've tried to be thoughtful and lay out kind of the path and all those things. We're gonna have some fun today, and we're gonna wade into some things that I think are just like very genuinely unlikely, but they're out there. so let's have some fun while we do it. Damian Lillard has been practicing an important acronym. A, B, C. And for college football fans, you know that means always be Cruton. Don't ever stop Cruton. So Damian Lillard has been on Twitter, and he's been Cruton. He's been at courtside games in Brooklyn, and he's been recruiting. My man has not stopped recruiting players to join the Portland Trailblazers. Players don't tamper, and Damian Lillard says, I will push the envelope and find out what that exactly looks like. You might not know what I'm talking about, but Damian Lillard has been defending Draymond Green's actions on Twitter. He's been saying what's up to his boy Mikal Bridges in Brooklyn, and he has been doing the right things to help the Portland Trailblazers land a star this summer. So what we're going to do in today's show is we're going to talk about the Cruton. We're going to talk about Cruton. We're going to talk about the realistic ways that Cruton would get done, how those players would get delivered here, and then we will close the show talking about some other options. So have some fun, wade into fantasy land with us. Welcome to Friday's show. Let's have a super Friday show. Draymond Green, future Blazer great. He's going to wear number 23. It's I guess Nate Williams, your boy Jonathan, if he's currently under contract, so maybe that he would have to give it to Draymond Green, but it's a number previously worn by such greats as Martell Webster and Alan Crabb, and Draymond's gonna look great, number 23. Dame's after him. Dame has long pined for Draymond Green. It is not an open secret. He has been a big fan of Draymond Green. He is friendly with Draymond Green. He has wanted to play with him and respected his game and all of those things for a long time. But when Draymond Green stomped on Domantas Sabonis' chest, you were probably sitting at home like, yo, that's a crime. That's assault, brother. But not Damian Lillard. He wasn't quoting Billy Madison. No. He was tweeting out that it was just kind of how Draymond's foot fell down and actually got his ankle grabbed and his foot had to go somewhere. And then when Draymond Green got suspended, Dame put out multiple tweets, one with the sort of hand on your face emoji and one saying a suspension is wild, defending Draymond Green, charming Draymond Green. And if you'll remember earlier this offseason, my everydayers know this. If you're an everyday listener, you've heard me talk about this. The Haters Guide is like you're rooting for other teams to blow up, and it really looks like down 2-0. The Warriors in trouble. Draymond Green suspended. Damian Lillard defending his boy. probably the most vocal defense of Draymond not named Shaquille O'Neal. And Shaquille O'Neal's on TV literally paid to do this type of thing. And so Shaquille O'Neal has also stepped on a player named Sabonis before. So he knows how it is to step on a Sabonis. You know he's going to defend someone for that. But you're rooting for the Warriors to implode. You're rooting for it to go wrong. That's the hater's guide to the playoffs, right? I don't even think I know I didn't include Draymond Green in my hater's guide to the playoffs because I assumed that Draymond Green he has a player option for next year. He's going to opt out of his contract, enter free agency, either re-sign with the Warriors, which seemed like the most likely scenario, or sign somewhere else with proximity to a championship type of winner, join his king, LeBron James, in LA. But with the way the Dame's laying it on thick, I started joking with some friends, just like I'm joking with you here on the podcast. Draymond's gonna be a Blazer, y'all. So how would that get done? Like, it's first of all not particularly realistic that it happens, but like certainly, obviously, there's interest there. Draymond is not as good as he used to be, but he's still a good basketball player. I think some people probably have a lower opinion of him than I do. I think he's still good. He was at one point great. He's not that anymore because age catches up, and he's, it was the year they won 73 games. The dude shot 38% from three. Now he they don't guard him at the 3-point line because he doesn't even look at the rim from there. Still an impactful defender, a great connector on offense. I think he's still a really good basketball player. He just once was a great basketball player. But how would he get here? It would have to be a trade involving Draymond opting into his contract, getting traded to the Blazers with a wink, wink, nod, nod. After I opt in, I'll get a multi-year extension and I'll get my money because this is his last chance to get paid, and he's going to get paid this summer one way or another. I don't see an obvious way that the Trailblazers trade for Draymond Green based on who they have. Sign and trade's kind of out the window because sign and trade's hard caps teams. The Warriors aren't going to want Jeremy Grant, so that's like for what it would cost them financially, just doesn't make sense. So it's like they certainly don't need it's like Anthony Simons. First of all, overpay. Second of all, it's not even what they need. Not even what they need. They already have Anthony Simons. His name's Jordan Poole. It doesn't make sense. So it's like they don't have the thing to offer them, right? Like Nurk. I don't think that's the fit, right? Nurk and some picks is not the fit for a team that's going to still want to be in that championship cycle, probably. So it would have to be 3-team trade. Again, looking at multiple teams, it's like you call up the Pistons and see if they'll route like one of their young bigs and Bogdanovich, and you send them Nazir Little and some picks and make it, and make a multi-team trade happen. I don't really have I'm not like a trade machine button masher. It's not my true love, but it would have to be a multi-team trade because I don't see a straight across trade. Again, I don't even think it's going to happen. I'm just like wading into fantasy land. But if the Blazers were going to acquire Draymond Green, it is not through free agency. Him opting out is not how they get him because they don't have a way to keep their roster competitive and have cap space. They're going to be an over the cap team. They're going to make this trades is how it's going to happen. That's the path for them to improve. So Draymond, they won tonight is the problem. I waited to record this. I'm recording this after the basketball games tonight. Warriors won. They looked good. They're a much better team at home. They're horrific on the road. They've been horrific on the road all season. And yet, even if they've been a horrific road team all season long, they were tied with 4 minutes left in both of those games against the Kings. One of them, Draymond Green just got booted from because he decided to stomp on someone's chest. To be clear, Dame's wrong. That was an intentional stomp. Not surprised he got tossed. Somewhat surprised he got suspended, but it happens. As Steph Curry said, they say Draymond's got a history, but so do we. The Warriors, they came back and won. Not great for the haters' guide, but if you're looking for Cruton, Dame was out there Cruton on the internet. You know what? Where else Dame was out there Cruton? Courtside, Nets Sixers. Let's talk about that in the second segment. But first, let's give Dame an award. My man deserves an award. He deserves some hardware for his struggles. How about the Nissan Electric Player of the Week? Brought to you by the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya. Damian Lillard goes on Twitter and sends multiple tweets charming Draymond Green, enticing him to join the famously inclusive leadership in the Pacific Northwest. Run from a place they don't respect you. They won't defend you when you do violence on the court in the fourth quarter. come and play for the brilliantly fierce, fiercely elegant Portland Trailblazers. A leader like Damian Lillard who is elegantly powerful. He delivers the duality, a combination of fierceness and elegance, beautiful but strong, the ability to both defend an opponent on Twitter and also clap back at people who respond to his tweets while he is charming someone who plays for another team. He's the perfect SUV crossover out there in those Twitter streets, much like the 2023 Nissan Ariya, which packs pin-to-your-seat power and premium intelligence all in one EV, the all-new, all-electric 2023 Nissan Ariya, the EV for people who love to drive. Shop now at nissanusa.com. All right. Damian Lillard, out there on Twitter, ABC. You never miss a day. That's the important part about always be Cruton. Never miss a day. So Damian Lillard goes to New York, just judging by his social media, he used to be there for some sort of Adidas thing. He's in New York doing his thing with Adidas, doing his thing for the Three Stripe brand. Why not take in a basketball game while you're there? And he can see someone who he has previously called his favorite small forward in the league, someone who works out with his trainer, Phil Beckner, in the offseason, someone who Damian Lillard recently as 10 days ago on ESPN2, last week on ESPN2, called one of his favorite players in the league, Mikal Bridges, breakout star for the Brooklyn Nets, who had himself a game, particularly in the first three quarters, and particularly in that first half, against Philly on Thursday, with Damian Lillard in the front row. When Mikal Bridges hit an early three, he does this little head nod, finger wave thing that that Mikal Bridges has credited to Manny Machado, I believe. He says he's a big San Diego Padres fan. He got it from Manny Machado. It's what Machado does when he gets a double or whatever and he's on second base. It's what Mikal Bridges does when he hits three-pointers. He does a little San Diego Padres head nod. He did a little head nod towards Damian Lillard. They're homies. And if you know, my everydayers know this. Shout out to everyone who listens to Every Day. That's coming at you 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. My everydayers know this. When Damian Lillard said at exit interviews, I know of needle movers, guys who move, he didn't call them needle movers, guys who move the needle. I think maybe call them needle movers. Guys who move the needle, who want to come to Portland. The first name I said, I know who he's got to be talking about. It's got to be Mikal. They're friends. They work out together, and Dame has openly been a fan of his game in public. Like, you don't even need sources. Out in the world, out in public. I'm a big fan of this dude's game. Mikal's right there. And Dame's right there, too. And Mikal's going off. Here's the problem. Mikal Bridges is 26, about to turn 27. He's really good. It's like one of the best two-way players in the game. Because he was a role player in Phoenix, and then he steps into the guy role in Brooklyn seamlessly. And he's like, yeah, cool. If you need me to score 40, I'm good to go. It's just that Spencer Dinwiddie, him of the Island fame, hijacked the game down the stretch, and they lost. But run some late offense through Mikal Bridges. They tried to, threw the ball away. Game ended. Maybe it turns out a little different. He's really good. He's under contract. The only way Mikal Bridges gets to the Portland Trailblazers and finishes off this beautiful tale of Cruton, ABC, is if he says, trade me to the Portland Trailblazers. Even if he says, trade me, the Brooklyn Nets are going to have a whole list of suitors. Reportedly at the trade deadline, the Memphis Grizzlies offered up to 4 first-round picks in exchange for Mikal Bridges, and the Brooklyn Nets turned them down. I think it's worth noting that 4 picks from the Memphis Grizzlies are like 4 late first-round picks, even if you push him out. Ja Morant is 23 years old. It's like you push him out to 2028. He's like, oh, Ja Morant in his physical prime. Like, you got to assume Jaren Jackson is again under 25. Like, the Grizzlies can't push picks out far enough that make them unappealing. They got a good young core is the real truth. And really nice fellow, Dylan Brooks. Seems like a good guy. Easy to get along with. But if they turn it down if Brooklyn's turned down 4 first-round picks, reportedly, for Mikal Bridges, you better believe, even if he asks out, even if he says, Sean Marks, get me out of here, I do not care for the Spencer Dinwiddie experience. He says, Sean Marks, I really don't want to play with Day'Ron Sharpe. Don't care for him. Get me out of here. Royce O'Neal, get me out of here. They're going to have suitors on the market, which means that the price is going to be high, which means that if you remember back when I did, shout out to my everydayers, I'm just citing myself all episode. I've said in the past I don't like doing this, but I've been encouraged by the good people who I work with to do it more often. But we do the show every day. We talk about everything. And a show where I highlighted that the Blazers have to make a choice if they go young or if they go, rebuild or build with Dame. The package I pitched for Mikal Bridges was something like, hey, the Blazers don't win the lottery, but they get the 4th pick in the draft or 5th pick in the draft, and they say 5 and Anthony Simons in exchange for Mikal Bridges. I think that's the package you start with, but if he really asks out, it might be more than that, and there might be a world when they say, cool, call us back when Shaedon Sharpe is involved. And Sharpe and Ant and the 5th pick is too much. And then you're in a situation where, do you overpay to appease the guy, to appease your star, limit your depth, totally gut the future, all those things we talked about in that previous episode, but that's too much. But I think Mikal Bridges is just so stinking good, and his archetype, multiple defender, a defender who can guard multiple positions and score on his own on offense, individual offense to go get a bucket, can give you 40 and can guard the best player. That's the exact archetype every team is looking for. Every team is looking for that type of player. There's a reason Damian Lillard is a big fan of Mikal Bridges, because he's really good and would be really helpful on every good team in the NBA. It's just the truth. It's that's how this works. He's a good player, and you would have to pay up for good players. I don't know if it's I'm kind of just spitballing a trade idea, but unless Mikal Bridges says, trade me to the Portland Trailblazers, and the Nets say, okay, bud, no prob. We just traded Kevin freaking Durant for you. We will now acquiesce your trade demand because this is just what happens to us because we're the freaking Brooklyn Nets. We're the Swamp Dragons. Curse of the Swamp Dragons. I don't think they would acquiesce him. I think they would say, you know what, we'll, if you want to get traded, we'll trade you, but we're going to shop around, and we're going to, if the offer in February was 4 firsts, it's hello, we would like to start the bidding at 3 first-round picks and something. And, I don't without getting too deep into it for the Blazers, that seems like an overpay to me. And then again, it's if you overpay now, you really short circuit what you can do, and you've kind of locked yourself into the team. Mikal Bridges would help. He's really fun. I really like him as a personality. Great. It'd be easy to root for him in a variety of ways, but seems hard to get him. The other guy there, if you're really dreaming, Dame's there to recruit Joel Embiid, y'all. And Hater's Guide is really working out for rooting against the Sixers. Sure, they're up 3-0 on the Nets, but they're the 3 seed against a Nets team that, won most of their games when they had a completely different roster, won 34 of their 46 games when they had a different group. The Sixers winning this round and flaming out in the second round still works for the Haters Guide. And today, ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski reported that there is real smoke around James Harden returning to Houston. That keeps coming up. Why Woj insists on game days to bring up the James Harden wants to play for another team thing, seemingly always, is just quite a choice for how the league is covered by NBA newsbreakers. It would be a lot better if we were talking about basketball, but whatever. We're not even doing that on my show, so I can't criticize them. We're doing nonsense on Locked On Blazers, so let people who are deeply sourced do nonsense as well. I mean, I wish it was another way around, but whatever. But James Harden going to Houston, eyeing a trip to Houston, and Philly having to break it up is good for the true Haters Guide. I just don't see a world in which Daryl Morey, the guy who's obsessed with getting star caliber players and held out Ben Simmons for 200 million games in a row in order to specifically get the one target he was after until he could squeeze the nets and get the one target he was after and James Harden was available. I just can't see a world in which Daryl Morey trades Joel Embiid. And if he does, it's a wild, wild package. He's going to win the MVP here in a couple weeks, right? Because everyone soured on Nikola Jokic in the last month of the season. That's the MVP of the league. He wasn't even very good tonight against the Nets, but he delivered late with a big block. yeah, like I think it's fun to dream about. Like I think all of these are a long shot. I think Draymond Green's unlikely. I think Mikal Bridges is unlikely. Joel Embiid is just like there's a reason he's third. There's a reason he's third in the show, okay? Because I really don't think unless he literally drives to Portland, starts wearing Trailblazer gear, and then FaceTimes Daryl Morey every day and says, "I already play for them, make it happen." It just seems so unlikely, just because of the package, right? Like you think of like what it took to get Kevin Durant, it's like Cam Johnson, good starting caliber wing in the league, good starting caliber forward, Mikal Bridges, budding star, draft picks, all of that. That's like without negotiating. Joel Embiid is younger. Like he's like literally the MVP of the league. It would be one of the craziest trade packages in league history. I don't know that the Blazers have the firepower to move it in that direction, but it's worth dreaming. It's Friday. It's been raining for, I don't know what, it's like April 20th. It's been raining in Portland for something like 100 consecutive days. It is so, we need to dream. We need to believe. That's the only way we're going to get through this is some sort of fake positivity. Yeah, like it would be fun. I just think it's relatively unlikely. You know what else is unlikely? That the Blazers run it back. But in an interview this week on the Jack Ramsey's podcast, Joe Cronin kind of said they might. I don't know if he said that, but he certainly kept hinting that. Let's talk about like not doing this. And what if they go the route none of us expect? That's what we'll do to close the show. But before we do that, I want to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. The Blazers are trying to build a championship team. And to do that, you got to make sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors with the eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage, look for the green check, and know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game. And when you shop on eBay Motors, you can be confident because they've got over 122 parts to choose from, and you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. The Blazers are trying to do something hard. They're trying to build from a team that's not good. Like even if they'd gone for it the whole year long, they're going to be like a 500 team. They're going to probably finish below 500, but you assume like slightly better health to the back half of the rotation. Adding like one more person taller than 6'10", they're going to be like a 500 team. They're going 40 games, 41 games. They would have been a play-in team. I think you could talk yourselves into them being very close to being a play-in team if they had gone for it the whole year. They might not have been, but they were close, but they're still like 10th best team in the West. 9th. I think 10th is actually more reasonable. To go from 10th to like 4th and then be in the hunt is a lot. It's a big step. I think they can get back to like that 7 through 10, maybe like upside of 6. I think they can get back there pretty easily. But I had assumed and talked about a bunch in the show that they basically have to choose a path because Damian Lillard has been very clear. He doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. He doesn't want to be patient. He doesn't want to wait. He wants them to be aggressive in pursuing veterans that can help him win now and, as in his words, get something done. And I think there is some debate over what that means from Damian Lillard's perspective, is what get something done means. Does that mean, hey, we think we're a playoff team? Or is that like, hey, this is a straight up really good roster that can win a playoff series, probably 2, and like compete for the Western Conference Finals on paper, day one, no problem. Don't have to squint, just like good, like one of the 5 best rosters in the West type of thing. I think that's kind of an unknown. It's part of the challenge of this summer is like sort of what appeals to Dame, and because of his sway in the organization, quite frankly, what appeals, like that appeal and the ability to execute that plan, will that, satisfy him, allow you to be a little more patient, or we have to like go for it or not go for it? To me, it sounds like it's those two paths: go for it or not go for it. But Joe Cronin was on Jack Ramsey's. I'm not going to like recap the show. It's Blazers podcast hosted by Dan Marang and Brandon Sprague. Joe Cronin, Blazers GM, was on their show. It's like 20 minutes on YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Go listen to it. I'm not going to run through it. I encourage you to go listen to the GM talk. But what Cronin said on there, the thing that stood out to me was he talked about the importance of maybe just adding that you didn't necessarily have to add stars necessarily. Although, that's still certainly a goal is to upgrade the roster, but adding depth is really important. That was one of the things they were missing this year. And he kind of hinted at keeping Anthony Simons on the roster, keeping Shaedon Sharpe, keeping Damian Lillard, bringing Jeremy Grant back. If Dame's back, Jeremy Grant's going to be back. It's basically a lock. Blazers have backed themselves into paying Jeremy Grant. They're going to pay him. And the way the timing works, they're going to know the deal by the time they have to pay Jeremy Grant. Probably. So I think where, after listening to Cronin say that, it's like, does he really mean that? Basically, what I'm thinking is like, dude's an NBA GM. He's not going to lay out his plan publicly. But is he just straight up lying? Is he just like, we think we can be better with just adding some more depth, and that's really important to us? That, to me, seems very, very different tonally from the way Damian Lillard spoke at exit interviews. And I think there's a world where they bring the roster back. I think it's really unlikely, but I think there's a world, and that you hit around the margins and make it happen and all those things. But it doesn't seem like Damian Lillard would be comfortable with that from my read on it. So I came away thinking two things. One, wow, the things have changed in 2 weeks. Or two, I don't believe what Joe Cronin is saying here. I don't believe that he just thinks they need to add depth. I don't believe that Damian Lillard thinks they just need to add depth. I think this is just like, I'm doing media, I'm talking heading into the summer, and it doesn't do me any good to say we have to trade Anthony Simons. Now, I don't think he's like big L lying, right? I think he's laying out the real truth is like, there are several ways to go about this, and he can't like get too deep into the specifics either way. But if you just look at the roster right now, sure, if they added depth, if they were better on the back half of the roster where they were not good this year, their starting lineup wasn't that good either, but particularly the starting lineup was pressed because the bench was so bad. If they had better bench parts, they'd be right back in that sort of low play-in mix, better health luck from you and worse health luck for other teams, and you're sixth, something like that. I think that's an easy, like, truthful sell for Joe Cronin. But I will say the emphatic, we got to do this from exit interviews really changed there. So I encourage you to go listen to Jack Ramsey's and listen to that. Like, I will say Cronin is not very forthcoming, but always listen when these dudes speak, because you either get a sense for the truth he tells, or if the actions that Cronin follows do not line up with what he says publicly. He's been on Travis Demers' podcast. He's been on Jack Ramsey's. It's like, if they don't line up with the things, that if the actions don't line up with what he said, it gives you a sense in the future. Hey, sometimes when Cronin talks, he's misdirecting on purpose. And I think that can help you kind of have a better understanding, because they're probably they're not going to do two of these things. They're not going to land Draymond and Mikal Bridges. I mean, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? But they're in a really tough spot to go from where they are to where they want to be. And I think there's a world where they can't get this type of thing done, and they can make incremental changes. Always easier to do that than the big ones. And I guess the difference that from today versus a couple, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago when the season ended, is that before it sounded like incremental changes were a non-starter for Damian Lillard. But listen to Cronin talk, the suggestions, and this is why I said I don't know if he's telling the truth, kind of feels like he's lying, is like the suggestions were that like if you make the right incremental changes, the right smart moves around the margins, you can build a good team and you can go from there. So I think to me it's fascinating, right? Because the unknown part is Dame's comfort level. If Dame's comfort level is like, yeah, that's cool with me, let's do it, it really does change the math of what they need to get done this summer. If his comfort level is what it has seemed very publicly, is that, and that's why he's out there on the recruiting trail, then there are no incremental changes that involve Damian Lillard being back. If you make incremental changes, you are actually just asking to make the big change, the big trade, and reset with a new era of Blazers basketball. So why this offseason is so friggin' fascinating? Because they've got big choices to make. And we're still not even that close to the draft lottery. The draft lottery is going to be crazy for the Blazers because if they get one, it totally reshapes everything and like all of that. If they don't, then it's like suitors who might be interested in that type of trade and all those things. Going to be a ton of fun. That's why you should come back, listen to the show. Really strong recommend. If you have not listened to the shows this week, go back and listen to them. We got season reviews for Anthony Simons, for Shaden Sharp, for Yusuf Nurkic, interview with Howard Beck, of veteran NBA reporter, who's currently writing for GQ. Fun episodes. Go back and listen to those. Next week, we'll continue our player reviews. We'll run through some of the Jeremy Grant, some of the young guys on the roster. Going to be a whole bunch of fun. Come back and join us. We do this every weekday. Make it your first listen. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.